All right, class, today we're doing Unit 5, Section 5, Solving Linear Inequalities. Okay, so a linear inequality is similar to a linear equation, but the equal sign is replaced with an inequality symbol. Remember, you have less than, greater than, less than or equal, or greater than or equal as our inequality symbols. Okay? So the solution to a linear inequality are the coordinates of the points that make the inequality true. Okay, got your 3 steps here of how to solve it, but I'd like to go ahead and solve one and then go back and look at those steps, okay? So, we're going to solve a linear inequality just like a linear equation. We want to use our slope-intercept form so that we can identify what our slope is and we can identify what our y-intercept is. Okay? Our y-intercept is positive 1 and our slope is negative 2, 1. So you can go down 2, right 1. Or, equivalent to that, is up 2, left 1. Okay, we need to go back and look at these inequality symbols. When we were graphing an inequality, when it was less than or greater than, when you graph in the equation, it had an open circle because your solution set did not include the number with the open circle, okay? Just like when we're graphing linear inequalities. The less than or greater than is not going to include the line, so you're going to have a dotted line. If it's less than or equal, you are going to include that line, and it's going to be solid. And I'll show you that when we test some points on this coordinate plane, okay? So, I have greater than, so it's going to be a dotted line. It's not going to include, the solution is not going to include that line. Okay, so let's test some points here. Okay, so we've got to decide if the solution is to the left of this line or to the right of this line. So let's go to the left first. Here's an easy point to test our origin, which is 0, 0. So with our inequality, we're going to substitute in for x and y. Is 0 greater than 1? No. So, this is not your solution set. Your solution set goes to the right of that line. Okay? But let's test a point and see. Let's test this point right here. So that's 3, 0. So substitute 0 in for y. 3 for x. So is 0 greater than negative 5? That is a true statement. So that's why you know that this is your solution set. What that means, students, is all of the points on this side of the line is your solution. Now, let's test a point on the line. Okay, so let's use the y-intercept here. Y-intercept is 0, 1. So let's test 0, 1. So when y is 1, x is 0. So when you simplify this, is 1 greater than 1? This is false. Therefore, that's why you've got to have a dotted line here. Okay? Alright, so let's go back up. Let's look at our steps. Okay, first step is to solve the inequality for y. What was already solved for y, the reason why you're doing that is you want to get it to your slope-intercept form so you can identify your slope and your y-intercept to graph that line. Graph the line, make sure you're paying close attention to the inequality symbol. If it's less than or graded, you're going to have a dotted line because that's not part of the solution. If it's less than or equal or greater than equal, you're going to have a solid line, and that is part of your solution. And then make sure you test. Minimum, you need to test on both sides of that line. And then we won't test every time, but I want to show you when we have a solid line how you can get that to be true, okay? So let's go ahead and do number 2. All right, so we can go ahead and identify our slope and our y-intercept. Y-intercept is -1, slope is 3/1. Then we can graph it. Okay, next step is to decide whether you have a solid or dotted line. Well, this is greater than or equal, so you want a solid line. Okay. Next step is we got to test some points. All right, so we got to decide whether it's to the right or the left. To the left is the origin. I always like to test that one because it's easy. So, when y is 0 and x is 0, we get 0 is greater than -1. Is that a true statement? Yes, that is. 0 is greater than 1, so that is letting you know that this is your solution set. Okay? Now, let's test another point just to make sure. Let's go over here to where we say this is not a solution set. Let's test this point here. That point is 3, 0. That should be greater than or equal to there. All right, so is 0 greater than or equal to +8? False. That's why this part is not your solution. Okay? Now, let's test a point on the line. So let's test this point right here. That point is 0, -1. Okay, so when y is -1, x is 0. So is -1 greater than or equal to -1? Yes. That's why the points on this line are also part of your solution set, and then all the points to this side. All right, number 3. On number 3, we need to isolate our variable y. Okay, so the first step is subtract 6x from both sides. And then we have to divide each term by 8 to isolate that variable y. And then I'm going to simplify. Divide these by 2. Divide by 4. Okay, so my slope is -3/4, and my y-intercept is 3/2, which is equivalent to 1.5. Okay, so let's graph this. Y-intercept, positive 1/2, so it's going to go about right here, between the 1 and the 2 on the y-axis, okay? So I'm going to go down 3, right 4. Down 3, right 4. Down 3, right 4. It's going to be over there somewhere. Okay. Then let's go the opposite direction. So if I go up 3, I got to go left 4. All right, now we got to decide solid or dotted line. And we have greater than or equal, so it's going to be solid. Okay, now we got to test. whether the solution set is to the right or to the left. I always like to test that origin. Okay, and I'm going to substitute into the original equation, or inequality. So, is 0 greater than or equal to 12? That is incorrect. So that's letting you know that this here is your solution set. All right, let's test a point over here, make sure. So let's test this one right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Is 24 greater than or equal to 12? And that is true. So you know that your solution set of this linear inequality are all the points to the right of that line, including the line. All right, we got one more. I'm going to be quiet and let you all work this on your own. If you get stuck, you can look at the board. All right, guys, only thing that I want to share on this one before I stop, we're getting ready to run out of time, is you need to be very careful, because when you're solving inequalities and you multiply or divide by a negative coefficient, you must flip that inequality. So don't forget about that right there. Because if you don't flip it and you test it, your graph's going to be wrong. Have a good evening.